When you think about the future of the internet, it kind of feels like we're watching two totally different worlds take shape. You've got the European Union over here, all about a human-centric internet, and then you've got China with its powerful, state-driven vision. But as we're about to see, the real story is so much more complicated than that. Let's get into it.
So here's the puzzle at the heart of it all. On one hand, you have experts describing these two digital worlds as being polar opposites, one for the state, one for the individual. But then other analysts look at how both of them are cracking down on big tech, and they see what they call a significant resemblance. It's like they're converging and diverging at the exact same time.
So, that's the big question we're tackling today. How on earth can these two global powers be drifting further apart and, simultaneously, walking down the same road? The answer, it turns out, tells us a whole lot about the future of data and, well, our entire digital lives.
To really get our heads around this, we need a better way to look at it. The source material for this explainer gives us a fantastic tool. It's called Ken Wilber's 4 Quadrants Framework. And trust me, it's the key that's going to unlock this whole puzzle for us.
So what is it? Simply put, it's a way of looking at any complex issue from 4 different but equally important points of view. It forces you to think about things from the individual's perspective and the collective or societal perspective. And for both of those, you have to look at the internal, subjective experience and the external, objective facts.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's break down how this framework applies the data. First, you have the I perspective. This is all about me, right? My privacy, my rights, how I feel about my data being used. Then there's the it lens. This is the objective stuff, my actual data, the raw, measurable facts about me. Then we zoom out to the we quadrant. This is about our society, our shared culture, our values. And finally, you have the system. This is the bird's eye view of the rules, the markets, the actual laws on the books. This is our map.
So let's start with that first lens, the I. We're looking at individual rights. And you know what? Right out of the gate, we hit a major surprise.
Just take a look at this. On the left, you've got rights from Europe's famous GDPR. On the right, rights from China's Personal Information Protection Law, or PIPL. The right to access your data? Check. Both have it. The right to correct your data if it's wrong? Yep, in there for both. The right to be forgotten? Both have a version of it, with some conditions. Even data portability. It's kind of stunning. When you just read the text of the laws, they look incredibly similar.
All right, now let's switch over to the system, the world of markets, regulations, and raw economic power. And once again, we see that strange convergence happening. Both the EU and China are getting really tough on their tech giants.
I'm sure you remember this one. Back in 2017, the EU hit Google with a massive €2.42 billion fine. The reason? Abusing its market dominance. It was a huge signal that in Europe, no company is too big to play by the rules.
And then, just a few years later, China's regulators fined their own tech giant, Alibaba, 18.2 billion yuan for anti-competitive practices. Now get this, when you do the conversion, that fine comes out to almost exactly 2.4 billion euros. It's an uncanny echo, to say the least.
So, the big takeaway from all this? When you look through those first two lenses, the I of individual rights and the system of market rules, the EU and China look like they're walking on parallel paths. But, and this is a really big but, that is only half the story.
Okay, now let's switch our lens to the we. That quadrant of shared values, of culture, of what a society believes in. And this is where that illusion of similarity just completely shatters. This is where the paths don't just diverge, they break apart, sharply.
At its core, the difference is philosophical. European data laws, they come from a place of individualism and a more liberal view on what the state's role should be. Chinese law, on the other hand, grows out of collectivist values and the idea of the central party state. And believe me, that's not just some academic detail. It changes absolutely everything.
And there is no better example of this split than China's social credit system. Scholar Anu Bradford calls it a highly invasive Orwellian surveillance system that mashes up information to create a score for people that can lead to rewards or punishments. It's a system that could only be born from that state-centric, collectivist worldview. Now, it's often misunderstood, so let's just quickly break down how it works. The system gathers up what's called public credit information, stuff like unpaid fines or court orders. It then pulls all that data together from all over the government. From there, automated systems can actually hand out consequences, like, say, blocking you from buying a plane ticket.
And now for the polar opposite. In Europe's GDPR, there is a very specific rule, Article 22, that gives you the right not to be subject to a major decision made only by an algorithm. you have the right to have a human step in. It's a complete philosophical rejection of the logic that makes the social credit system possible.
Okay, so we've got this really deep fundamental divide in values, and that creates a massive gap in trust. In a world that depends more and more on global data every single day, is there any way to actually bridge this divide?
And the stakes here are incredibly high. I mean, think about the huge challenges we're all facing. Global health crises, climate change, scientific research. All of that stuff requires us to work together, to share massive amounts of data. How can we do that safely when our underlying systems are just so different?
Well, the source material offers a really interesting possible solution, the idea of international data trusts. The concept is basically to create a kind of digital Switzerland, a neutral, independent body that holds and manages data for a specific, agreed-upon purpose, like, say, cancer research.
So in practice, it would work like this. A neutral trustee, not a government, would hold the data securely. It would be governed by a set of transparent rules that everyone agrees on in advance. The data would be de-identified to protect people's privacy, and it could only be used for that one specific goal. The whole point is to build confidence by taking direct state-to-state transfers out of the equation.
So we started with this strange illusion of two digital worlds that seemed both identical and opposite. The reality, as we've seen, is so much more complicated. And while ideas like data trusts might help us figure out the technical problems, it all leaves us with one final, really big question. As data literally shapes our world, who really gets to decide what's real and what's just an illusion?